What if I told you that after working with over 120 insurance agency owners, I found that most of them got stuck because of these two bottlenecks that nobody talks about? So, in this video, I want to go over those two hidden bottlenecks that are keeping 99% of agents from growing their agency. And so, we're going to talk because really my mission is to help agents build an agency that works for them instead of them working for it. So, let's get started. Now, there were two massive areas where scale becomes a problem. Now, before we get into the exact two problems that cause this, we have to understand one thing, which is leverage. So I'm going to brush over this real quick, right? Leverage is just the amount of input that you're putting in versus the amount of output you're getting. So if you have very little leverage, you're putting a lot of input and getting a less output, like in the graph on the left side. If you have a lot of leverage, you're putting in less input and you're getting a lot of output. So that's really what we want to look at when we're looking at scaling our agency. Now, this is the through line to those two main reasons that keep agents stuck from scaling. So now, since we're talking about leverage, I really want to talk about Naval Ravikant. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't, but he's the co-founder and chairman and former CEO of AngelList, which is a massive angel investing company. He has invested in the early stages of Uber, Foursquare, Twitter, and Postmates, just to name a few. And Naval Ravikant has actually amassed his billion-dollar fortune working just 4 hours a week. So when it comes to leverage, working 4 hours a week and still being able to build a billion-dollar fortune is massive. So that's really why we want to use his system to be able to leverage our insurance agencies to grow. So Naval Ravikant discovered what's called the four C's of leverage. Now, the four C's are code, capital, collaboration, and content. Let's start with code real quick. So, code is just what it sounds like, right? You have a software, it works, and that software can now be automated or run something that then maybe keeps you from hiring an employee. So, code is something that you do once, you build it once, and now it works infinitely for you. So, capital, pretty self explanatory, right? You need money to make money. So, capital is where we get that influx of cash and we're able to pour it into the business to allow us to make more money. So, that could be used by acquiring a book of business, it could be used by creating something that is a code, right? That's allowing us to use leverage like an app. So all of these things are the ways that we could use capital. Collaboration is two things. It could be partnership or it could be employee. It's really the idea of collaborating with people in some way or another, whether that's on an employee-employer relationship or partnership relationship. And then the last one is content. And content is anything that you can create once that can then produce exposure or income for you again and again without you having to put in more effort. Now, when we understand leverage, now these two areas are going to make a lot more sense. So let's go over the first major problem area, and that's scaling with new hires. So, one of the major problems that's scaling with new hires is the amount of time that it takes to train that new hire. So, I'm sure you've experienced this before where you want to hire somebody, they seem like a great candidate, you spend a bunch of time, 3 months or 6 months later, they leave, and now it feels like a huge waste of time, right? So it really leaves you two options, right? You can have someone who has more experience, which then is going to require you to train them less, or you can get someone who has less experience, which is going to require you to train them more. So you're really just in this constant roller coaster of hiring because, yeah, you can spend more money on the person that's more expensive, but again, it could still be the same thing where you spend a little bit of time training them and then in 3 months they leave, or you just simply can't afford that more expensive person. So you're stuck not able to make that hire. And what happens that's really common, in fact, is people who have just bought a book. So a lot of agency owners get to this point where, hey, they're ready to purchase a book, they have the space for it, but now they don't have a system where if the workload is higher than what they expected, now they can't actually go out and hire new people because they just don't have the time. They don't have time to set everything up to go find the hire, and they don't have the time to train that new hire. That's the first area, right? Is with scaling is with new hires. And the next area that agents really struggle with scaling is with lead generation. So, challenges that you may have with lead generation, right, is that there's no predictability. It's you might have a referral partner, they sometimes send you something, they sometimes don't. You don't really have something that you can predictably count on again and again for lead generation. So the other challenge that you really have is it's hard to determine what lead generation tool has the best ROI. For a while, a lead gen agency is doing really well for you, and then it's not. And now new laws come in, right, which then affect that lead gen agency. You can try SEO, but then it takes a long time to build. You can try ads, but then it's really expensive, which is again, and it's complicated to run those ads. And then you're just caught in this constant frustration of lead generation where you just don't know where your leads are going to come from. And sometimes it's pouring rain with leads, and other times it's a desert. So when it comes to scaling lead generation, we want to make sure that we build something that is predictable and something that we can count on. So those are the two main areas is the new hires and lead generation. But what's really important to note is obviously how do we fix it? So now that we know what the problem is, we really need to fix it. And to fix this, we really need a tool that can create leverage for the amount of energy that we're going to put in. So we want to be able to leverage our time, our energy, and our money. The next thing we want is we want it to ease the load of hiring. So we want to make it to where hiring is, because we're aware of that problem, we want to make it where hiring becomes very straightforward. And then the same thing with lead generation. We want it to be able to create lead opportunities. And ultimately, we want it to be something that can be repeatable and something that we can build a system around so that we can scale even the tool that we're using. So it might surprise you, but there's actually one tool that actually solves both of these things, and that's content. And I'll explain why in a second, but let's just go through real quick what content is first, right? So content is blog posts, social media posts, SEO, SOPs, training videos, anything that you can create once that will give you that benefit again and again. Now, how does content really meet the requirements to solve these two things? So, content solves this problem because it can remove the bottlenecks of hiring with training videos. It can also help with lead generation, as you've seen many people have success with social media, right? So, that's the content side, lead generation or SEO. Right, it can be repeatable and it can be systemized. So you can have something that can work again and again that you don't have to keep recreating or reinventing the wheel. And again, it uses leverage. You do it once and you can have the same thing giving you benefit over and over again. So to give you an example of how this looks like on the hiring side, right? The hiring bottlenecks is let's say that you create a library of training videos. It takes you some time, you make it once, but now you're ready to make a new hire. So now you go ahead and make a new hire. And again, those few 3 to 6 months are crucial because insurance hasn't really done a good job of making it attractive for young people, right? So you don't know who's going to be a good fit and who's not, especially if you're going to hire somebody who doesn't have any experience. So now you got to see if they are the right fit and if they're going to stick around. And now the beautiful thing is, let's say that they leave. Let's say that they're not the right fit, they walk away. Well, now it doesn't take any more time to train that new hire because you created that library of training videos once. Now, you might be thinking, well, Stefan, a lot of these carrier websites change a bunch and they're not all the same. That's true. However, the essence and the process of how everything works is still the same. And 90% of what's happening inside of an insurance agency can have a video that can help train somebody else. The other advantage that nobody talks about with this is what if you do have a really great employee who's doing a really great job, but something happens to them like they go on maternity leave. Now, you don't have anybody who can replace them because nobody knows how to do their job. So having a training video per role or a series, a training library per role is going to allow you as a business owner to be able to automatically have somebody be able to fit in, even though they may not be the best one. There's somebody who at least is going to be able to know how to get the job done. So the best part about this whole thing is that you can keep hiring until you have the right team, and you can safeguard yourself by making sure that every single role inside of your agency has a library of training videos that you can then use to bring in multiple people or the next person that you need to replace. Now, on the lead gen bottleneck side, creating a library of social media content, what this does is that you can show up in front of potential customers again and again, and that's building trust and authority. Content can also be used for retention and referrals. You can send out on your email blast, you can send out a more personalized video that's a happy birthday video or a Merry Christmas video. You can also just send the content that's just valuable. Hey, these are the changes that are happening inside the insurance industry and I want to make sure that you're aware of them, or just value. It also allows you to re-engage that client who may have not come in for an annual review in 3 years. You can re-engage them with a video that's going to more likely catch that person's attention and be able to revisit that client for an annual review. Another reason that it removes the bottlenecks and actually accelerates is that it helps you battle test the content for ads. Typically, what works organically is going to work really, really well on a paid advertising sample. So now that you know what works, it's going to give you a foundation, a starting point where now when you're ready to scale ads and actually start running ads, you know what content and what kind of content, like the format of the content, is going to work and connect with your customers or potential customers. And the truth is, one great video could bring you leads for months or even years. So if you're able to create one video or have 3 or 7 videos that are doing this for you, it really creates that predictability of how many leads or approximately how many leads are coming in to your agency every single month. And the side of this that most people don't talk about is actually you can get paid to market your agency. So the way this works is that a lot of social media platforms today are paying the people for posting videos on their site. So YouTube has their YouTube partnership program. You post a YouTube video, they decide to put an ad at the front or in the middle of your video. And when that shows up, you get a portion of that ad revenue that they charge another business to put on your video. So now, if you have a series of these videos on different platforms that are now bringing you more revenue, now basically you have a pot of money that you can use and pour right back into the marketing. So it's a completely different system before then, because before we had to just pay to market. So it's a really new tool that we can really use with content that allows us to remove those lead gen bottlenecks and even bring us more financial stability inside of our agency. Now, I do have a free training that covers how you can actually fill your pipeline with content that can bring you 30 leads every single month. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. You can go ahead and check it out. It's completely free. You don't have to put your email address or anything. You just access it right away and you can watch it and take advantage of that. So the next part of this, right, is the repeatable and systemizable. So you can create a library of content formats, right? So you can have different types of formats. So a format would be something like a meme is a format, or somebody reacting to a video is a format. Those are all formats. So you can create a series of, let's say, 3 different formats that you know this is the format that I'm going to do every single time, which makes it much easier to create content at a higher scale. The next thing is you can build automations so that you can remain consistent. So you can use certain AI tools that help you come up with new content or create the new content, and it allows you to make sure that you can keep that daily churn of content that goes out. The other thing is we can implement systems that save time. You can use scheduling softwares, right, like Buffer or Metricool. There's a bunch of really great ones out there. We use Metricool for us. We love it. It's really great. And the other thing you can do as far as being repeatable and system is all of this can be outsourced. So if you don't want to do any of it, it can be outsourced. Or if you start doing it for right away and later your agency grows and you have more income, you have more revenue coming into your agency, you can outsource all of this, which then allows you to even scale even further, right? And then ultimately, again, it's allowing you to leverage your time and your energy. So really the big takeaway from this that I really hope that you guys take is to just start creating content. Now, I want to point out one really important thing is that action is much greater than perfection. So I encourage you to just take action. It doesn't have to be perfect. Best thing that you can do is get started. Now, you have to determine which one of these you want to scale, whether it's on the lead side of the business or whether it's on the hiring side. But I do recommend to take action. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just go ahead, start creating content. I promise you won't regret it. Now, if this is still way too overwhelming for you, we would love to help you out. So what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the description below where you can learn more about what it looks like to work with us. We would absolutely love to help you out in scaling your agency, scaling your content, both on the lead generation side and on the hiring side. So I'll leave it there. So again, take action, and I really hope that you found value in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.